kids haven't even gone on my midlife crisis shopping spree yet. What you get for yours?
The Avengers.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my Marvel Secret Invasion episode 1 video. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all the episodes, just like the other Marvel Disney Plus series. Be sure to subscribe to get them. We're also doing a giveaway for Disney Plus memberships. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and post your favorite moment from the episode on the video. Careful for spoilers if you have not seen the episode yet, because we'll be talking about everything. We'll just start at the beginning and work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments. Starting with the episode title, Resurrection, which is a reference to Nick Fury basically coming back to Earth, like they're resurrecting Nick Fury because he's kind of been dead to the world, so to speak, for the last couple of years since Avengers Endgame. During the episode, several characters reference this, like him being gone on the Saber space station. The way that he explains it, he was just broken by what happened, the events of the snap. He has a PTSD flashback to Avengers Infinity War after Thanos snapped the Infinity Gauntlet, so it sounds like he's still dealing with the trauma of that.
Well done.
But there'll be a lot more references to this throughout the series. They also reference a Saber space station several times in the episode, and it'll be a big location during the Captain Marvel 2 movie, The Marvels. They start with a brand new version of the Marvel standard intro logo title. It's way quicker than the ones before, and I think what they're doing now is they're going to use this short one for all the Marvel Disney Plus series like this, and they'll save the longer versions of the Marvel Studios intro logo for the movies only. But the opening scene is of Everett Ross coming back, even though it's not really Everett Ross, it's a Skrull pretending to be him. You remember he was arrested by Val at the end of Black Panther Wakanda Forever and escaped, so essentially he's a fugitive from justice, so the fact that he was working here as part of the CIA, like he was still doing his regular duties, should have been kind of suspect. This is meant to pick up in the year 2025 around the spring, and that's about the current era in Marvel right now, like all the movies that are happening around this period. They're in Moscow, and he's contacted by an Agent Prescott, played by Beric Dondarrion from Game of Thrones.
Thoros, how many times have you brought me back?
It's the Lord of Light brings you back.
Closest thing to a flaming sword in the MCU that we have is Kit Harington's Black Knight with the ebony blade. It is funny to see a bunch of Game of Thrones actors, especially Emilia Clarke, who's playing Talos' daughter during the series, show up in the MCU now. Cannot wait to see if we'll ever see any crossover between Emilia Clarke's character and Kit Harington's Black Knight character. Don't I remember you from somewhere? Have you ever tried to kill me before? He's gone full Charlie Day theory meme and learned about this evil sect of Skrulls graphics group inside the good group who's infiltrating different nations, taking over world leaders, orchestrating all these terror attacks, and learns about the dirty bomb that they plan to set off, or the dirty bomb, multiple bombs that they plan to set off in Russia shortly. He wants him to contact Nick Fury, bring him down from the Saber space station. They also use a lot of these types of scenes in the episode for exposition, like big info dumps. They reveal Gravik and the others blame Nick Fury and Captain Marvel for failing to find them a new world to live on for the past 30 years. That was part of a promise that they made to them after the events of the Captain Marvel movie 30 years ago. A lot of people wondering about this too, like they had 30 years to worry about this, even though Thanos, the Snap, the Infinity Gauntlet, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, all that stuff, even the first Avengers movie didn't happen till many years later. What else was going on during the 90s that Nick Fury didn't have time to find them another planet to live on is a big, big universe. They also make several references to Captain Marvel in the episode too, like she bailed on us just like you bailed on us, Nick Fury. There'll be many references to this, especially in the Marvels movie. They did this during the Miss Marvel movie too, because part of the joke is that Captain Marvel is never around. But part of the idea here is that Gravik wants to start a war between Russia and the United States by blaming the attack on Unity Day from a United States group. So part of the idea is that the Skrulls are trying to get the humans to take care of themselves, like mutually assured destruction, making it easier for Gravik's group of Skrulls, the larger group of Skrulls, to just kind of move in the ashes and live. They don't need to fight a war if the humans kill themselves. Then they bring back the real version of Maria Hill. It is the real one. The twist here is that it's not evil Skrulls chasing after him, it's actually Talos, and we learned that he himself was a Skrull. R.I.P. Beric Dondarrion. That's part of the ironic joke there too, like as crazy as he was right about everything. When they make the Everett Ross Skrull reveal and the Talos reveal, when they start panning out on the shot, you see purple lighting illuminating the street. That's purple for the Skrulls' suits. Then they transition to the custom Secret Invasion titles, which are green for Skrulls, even though the green and the big bomb, like the nuclear explosion, makes it seem very Hulk-like. It's meant to represent their dirty bomb that they're planning on setting off, as well as the idea that they're trying to get the humans to destroy each other. This is their larger ship that you saw during the Captain Marvel movie. This is more of their true plan, all the ships floating over New York City about to descend to take over in force, kind of like the end of the comic book Secret Invasion storyline. This is Nick Fury. This is the evil Skrulls in Russia as part of the big plot in this episode, because most of the series takes place in Russia. This is them impersonating the police, just more foreshadowing for them impersonating people of authority, world leaders. This is London, representing all the Sonya Falsworth storyline. The Skrull shaking hands with the human is meant to represent Nick Fury's alliance with Talos, like their relationship coming together in the good Skrulls that are actually trying to live in harmony with humans. This is meant to represent the Skrulls replacing the US president and other world leaders, so I do think early theory is that they will try to replace Dermot Mulroney's US president. This is Emilia Clarke's character. She's playing Talos' daughter named Gaia. She was a little girl in the Captain Marvel movie. Gaia also means, in some languages, Earth, like it's meant to represent Earth. There's also a metaphor for a flower, like a seed from Skrullos, their original planet, adapting to life on Earth. She's also meant to be a metaphor for that seed that her mother brought and adapted to life on Earth. She's meant to be a culmination of Talos' idea of living with humans in harmony. But the idea is that 30 years go by, she grows up into Emilia Clarke here, and she's just gotten more bitter about not having a place to live, and she falls in with this evil group of Skrulls in Gravik. This is just the culmination of their plan, taking over the entire world as Skrull Green takes over the planet. The other major thing that they revealed about the titles here is that they were created by AI, and it was meant to play into the whole mystery, like the paranoia aspect that people have in real life about AI taking over. The funny connection to upcoming Marvel series too, like the whole idea of AI running amok, is Ultron basically. They're supposed to bring that idea back during the Armor Wars series, and Val is supposed to be one of the villains during that, and she's supposed to inadvertently resurrect Ultron, which will then run amok. There'll be a lot of other stuff going on during Armor Wars, like they're bringing Justin Hammer back, but Val and Ultron will be other villains that will appear during the series. Then the real version of Nick Fury comes back from the Saber space station finally on Talos' call about what happened with Everett Ross. Like, there's a large secret invasion plot that you need to worry about right now. Notice that he's not wearing the eye patch, he's limping because they have gravity on the Saber space station set to lower, so he's just getting used to the gravity on Earth. When they reveal Talos' plant, he calls it a Santa Milica. Like I said, that's meant to be a metaphor for their daughter. Like, there's a real plant that his wife brought and tried to grow on Earth successfully, but their daughter is meant to be the real culmination of that whole concept. When he references his wife, Soren, it takes a while in the episode. They reference it a couple times, but apparently Gravik killed her at some point, and that's what helps turn Emilia Clarke's character against him. The last time we saw her was in the Spider-Man Far From Home post-credit scene when she was impersonating Maria Hill and Talos was still impersonating Nick Fury, which he references in the episode. Like, we've been trying to do the good work here, do what you asked for us, filling in for you, and that's basically since the end of Avengers Endgame. Like, it was real Nick Fury at Iron Man's funeral, then Talos and his wife started impersonating him and Maria Hill.
You gotta tell me.
It was fine.
Them touching foreheads together like that is basically the Skrulls' way of hugging people. The promise he refers to is the promise that Nick Fury and Captain Marvel made to the Skrulls to find them a new home, and he explains that he was exiled from the Skrull Council because of the failure to find a new world. Gravik has taken his spot on the Council and radicalized most of the Skrulls to his secret invasion plot, which is why there are so many Skrulls that are part of their group. So it's not that all the Skrulls are suddenly evil and trying to take over the planet. Some of them are just trying to live their lives, which they show later, even the ones that are living on Gravik's compound. The other thing here, too, is that Talos being pushed out of the Skrull Council is meant to be a parallel for Nick Fury. Like, Nick Fury is on the outs. He's kind of been in exile this whole time, too. He doesn't have S.H.I.E.L.D. to fall back on. Also, too, it seems like they kill off Maria Hill during the episode. They really want Nick Fury and Talos to feel like they're doing this by themselves. Maria Hill explains a little bit more about Gravik's true plan to start a war between Russia and the United States. Like, they want to set the bomb off, blame the United States group, so that it will lead to a war between Russia and the United States. And it's just a coincidence that Russia is in the middle of a war in real life. Like, they wrote these episodes, that plotline, way before Russia ever went to war with the Ukraine. So it's just one of those many examples the last couple of years of real life being stranger than fiction. Tying to this idea, though, we go back to the White House in the United States and we learn that Rhodey has become the president's military advisor since Avengers Endgame, and the current U.S. president is being played by Dermot Mulroney. I don't know how long he's been in office. They talk about Nick Fury coming back, and the president is worried, and Rhodey's also kind of worried because it seems like Nick Fury has abandoned the Saber space station, and they basically tasked him with building it, which they call the most advanced space defense platform in the history of humanity. It's meant to be a reference to the Sword space station in the comics, which they call the Peak. The whole idea is that S.H.I.E.L.D. is meant to protect everything internally on planet Earth. SWORD was meant to protect everything coming from outer space. Part of the reason why they can't use the SWORD name or the SWORD space station, why they call it the Saber space station instead, is because they burned the SWORD organization during the WandaVision series. So they're calling the space station something slightly different. Fun fact too, the SWORD space station was created by Joss Whedon in the X-Men comics, which is why it took them so long to introduce it in the MCU. Took a little while to get the rights to those X-Men comics and those X-Men characters back. In the comics, it's run by Abigail Brand. It's been featured in a lot of the cartoon series you may have seen before. There's an early theory right now that Emilia Clarke's character will become a bigger character in the MCU going forward, and she'll become Nick Fury's new right-hand person and run the Saber space station and become kind of like a version of Abigail Brand in the MCU. There's already been a lot of fan art of her as Abigail Brand as well. And for those of you asking about what happened with SWORD after WandaVision, Tyler Hayward is still meant to be in prison. So I think SWORD, the organization, still exists, but they're still kind of under lock and key. Like, they basically fired everybody that works there. And for instance, Monica Rambeau is working with Nick Fury up on the Saber space station. Like, so we saw her in the Marvel's trailer, basically doing work for him. So most of the important people at SWORD seem like they're working for Nick Fury in outer space now. When they're walking up the White House steps too, they pass by Reagan's painting here. Like, it's relatively accurate to the real-life White House, but part of the joke here is that Reagan was the US president that started the Star Wars program, which is basically what they're talking about with the Saber space station. It's like the ultimate culmination of that in the MCU. In real life, George Lucas was a boss for not trying to sue the US government for stealing his movie name. Nick Fury winds up getting abducted by Olivia Colman, who's playing Sonya Falsworth, who's the daughter of the original Union Jack. They make a couple references to the comic book origin story of these characters in the Union Jack relationship with Captain America, the original comic book Nick Fury. All the stuff with the Howling Commandos that took place in the comics and then during the Captain America First Avenger movie. In the MCU, she's meant to be kind of like the British version of Val running MI6. Getting into James Bond territory, kind of like the MCU version of M. But you're meant to get a very Val kind of vibe from her character, like she is hardcore. The Paul Robeson reference is to a jazz musician in real life who worked in spycraft during World War II as well, helping the United States government. It's also meant to be a reference to Captain America in the Howling Commandos in World War II. The reason she references him specifically is a nod to Nick Fury's origins as a member of the comic book Howling Commandos. During the comics, all the characters are way older. They were introduced much earlier in history, so the original Nick Fury was part of World War II in the Howling Commandos. But in the MCU, they've shifted the timeline forward, so this Nick Fury was born in the 50s. But the other idea is that her father was the original Union Jack and fought with Captain America in the MCU as part of the Howling Commandos. So they go way back in the MCU, like they talk about working together in spycraft during the Cold War, but then also it's a reference to them going way back in the comics. One of the other references with the clocks that they make here, like all the clocks everywhere, I think is a metaphor for the doomsday clock that the government keeps, like the countdown to destruction, basically, like the countdown to annihilation, which is kind of where things are headed with this Skrull secret invasion plot. They reveal Nick Fury has known Gravik for a long time, and I think part of the idea, like they reveal Skrulls live for a very long time. So even if they look younger in present day, like they're middle-aged, technically they're meant to be very, very old. But part of the idea is that Gravik used to be one of the good Skrulls and then just slowly over time grew bitter at them not finding a home and was eventually radicalized, and now they have this secret invasion plot. They reference Thanos, the events of the snap, what happened to Nick Fury, how it changed him so much. Like I said, he has a PTSD flashback to getting snapped. And part of the idea is they wanted Nick Fury to seem very different from pre-Thanos Nick Fury. Like, originally the idea is that Nick Fury was always 3 steps ahead of everyone, always playing this 4-dimensional chess game. He always had a plan. He's the person that brought the Avengers together, which they reference in the episode in a kind of a funny way. But they wanted him to experience a crisis of faith temporarily. He will eventually rally. He will help put together the next Avengers team. But part of the idea here is that Sonya Falsworth is meant to be kind of an antagonist who's friendly to Nick Fury, but he says she has a scorched earth policy, and she'll kill any Skrull that she comes across. They try to make you feel like Talos is really against this, like he's a pacifist at heart, he doesn't want to harm his own people. So they're trying to stop the secret invasion plot before Sonya Falsworth finds an excuse to kill all the Skrulls. We meet Emilia Clarke's Gaia character working with Gravik's group at one of their Russian power plants, one of their compounds, quote-unquote, that they live at. That's meant to be the big reveal here, like who her character really is. They technically don't reveal it till later when he finds her in the alleyway. But the whole thing is that she had disappeared for years, we didn't know what happened to her, and this is where she's been, with this group of Skrulls that are trying to take over the planet. When she calls it New Skrullos, that's meant to be their new capital. Skrullos is the name of the original Skrull homeworld. They'll probably talk more about what happened to it during the series, but part of the idea is in the MCU, the Skrulls are meant to have lost their homeworld. It was destroyed during the Kree-Skrull War. So in the original comics, the Skrulls were the villains and the Kree were the good characters. They kind of switched that in the MCU. A lot of what's happening with the Kree-Skrull War and the backstory of what really happened to the Skrulls are meant to play into the Marvels movie. Like the Kree are big villains, big antagonists during the Marvels movie. But I think part of the other idea too is that this other group of Skrulls calls the Earth New Skrullos. Like they'll just replace the term with New Skrullos. When she says there's about 500 Skrulls living there, part of what they want to show you is that most of them don't care about this secret invasion. Most of the Skrulls are just trying to live their lives peacefully. Then they start revealing the Warriors, the members that are part of Gravik's group. She says the longer that Skrulls hold their human form, the harder it is to detect people. And I think this is meant to play into the idea that some of the Avengers characters, like the really big MCU characters, have secretly been Skrulls since Avengers Endgame, maybe even before that. And that's why we're not learning about it until now, because they've held that human form. They've been replacing those Avengers characters for so long. One of the early theories about the series is that Rhodey is going to be one of these Skrulls, like he'll have been a Skrull since at least Avengers Endgame. And part of the idea is that they're using his special access to the US president to eventually replace the president. Then they actually show them the process the Skrulls use to replace someone and how they steal their memories. You kind of got a teaser for this during the first Captain Marvel movie with the electrodes in their brain, the way they steal their memories. But all these people that they have hooked up are the people that they are slowly replacing. The series in general is supposed to lay the path for Thunderbolt Ross to become the US president, and I think part of the idea is that they'll find out what happened in like the end of comic book Secret Invasion. Norman Osborn took credit for getting rid of the Skrulls. In the MCU, Val and Thunderbolt Ross will take credit for getting rid of the Skrulls. In maybe early theory, they kill off this US president, Dermot Mulroney, so it creates a need for a new US president, and Thunderbolt Ross just rides that wave of popularity into office. I think that he's supposed to be the US president by the events of Captain America 4, but it might happen before that. I don't think it's going to happen during this series. I think we'll just find out something will happen to the US president by the end of this series, and that'll sort of create the vacuum where Val and Thunderbolt Ross will find opportunity. So they're giving a lot of this Marvel Phase 5 Dark Reign plotline that Norman Osborn had to Thunderbolt Ross and Val. But that's basically the way things happen in the comics. Like it went from Secret Invasion, big crossover Avengers, X-Men, Marvel-wide title event to Dark Reign. This series in particular mostly sets up that as an Earth-based plot, not so much the Kang multiverse war plot, which is more of the cosmic stuff heading into Avengers 5. They'll deal with that during series like Loki, like the other big space-based series. But that's part of the victory that she references when she says, beyond these doors lies victory. It's the whole idea of them replacing all these world leaders. One of the other new details that I don't think that they revealed in the original Captain Marvel movie is that Skrulls have the power to just put their hands on people and absorb their memories. The bomb that Nick Fury uses as a listening device to find out about is what they set off at the end of the episode. We meet Gravik's character, played by Kingsley Ben-Adir. His daughter, Talos' daughter, is there. The book she's reading is How to Understand the Human Mind, a callback to them just literally reading the memories of humans. Talos reveals that he's 136 years old. Like I said, by human standards, he's only about 40, so Skrulls are meant to live for hundreds of years. Nick Fury also says that his midlife crisis was forming the Avengers. There'll be a lot more references to the Avengers in general during the series. Then we have Maria Hill versus Talos' daughter, and this is just meant to set up the reveal that she is Talos' daughter. Like, they don't actually reveal it till this moment when he finds her. They explain why she left, why she's so pissed off at him right now, but set the seed for her turning sides with the idea that Gravik secretly killed her mother, and she didn't know until now. Like, Talos is revealing that to her. It was Gravik, the person you're serving, killed your mother. Not sure when that happened. I'm assuming sometime just before the series picked up. They also use this Maria Hill versus Emilia Clarke fight to show you that Skrulls are way stronger naturally than humans. Nick Fury references his time as an agent during the Cold War era. Based on his age right now in the MCU, he's probably talking about the 70s and the 80s. I think he's supposed to be in his mid-70s in the MCU right now, which is close to how old Samuel L. Jackson is in real life. That was one of the jokes in the Captain Marvel movie, which was set in the 90s with a younger Nick Fury, but if you saw him running, he ran like an old man, even though they were de-aging his face. So it was like a really young-looking person who ran like a really old man. That's why you don't see them giving Samuel L. Jackson a ton of really hardcore fight scenes. Maria Hill starts arguing with him about bailing on planet Earth, having a crisis of faith, And when she says he owes someone else, the person she's referencing is Nick Fury's wife, who we'll meet on the series. That's right, Nick Fury does have a wife in the MCU. You notice they're also playing a chess match. That's a bit of a reference to the X-Men movies with Professor X and Magneto playing chess with each other, but also Stan Lee had a cameo scene at the end of the first Avengers movie playing chess in Central Park. Talos' daughter coming back to visit him then is meant to show you how she started to switch sides. It hasn't fully happened yet, but she's already started to switch back to help them. Then at the Russian Unity Day celebration, Nick Fury starts being distracted by Gravik. He starts to switch between all the different people that Nick Fury saw the day before as a way to show Nick Fury, we are everywhere. You won't know that it's us until it's too late. Gravik impersonates Nick Fury, then shooting Maria Hill, and they end the episode with her bleeding out, basically. They make it seem like she is dead, the way that Nick Fury reacts and takes off. She was only listed in the credits as a special guest star like Martin Freeman, who they killed off during the episode, even though he was a secret Skrull. So they really want you to think that she's dead, like perma-dead, but I think there's a chance that she survives and comes back at the end of the series. But like I said, I think the idea is that Maria Hill has been Nick Fury's right-hand person this whole time in the MCU, and now they want to sort of clear the path and make that Emilia Clarke's character. So it is possible that she's dead. Let me know in the comments, do you think that Maria Hill is perma-dead, or if you think it'll be a big fake-out and Marvel will bring her back at the end of the series? She is also one of the big Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. references because she was such a big character during that series. There's a lot of theories that we'll also see some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters from the TV show up in the MCU through Secret Invasion, possibly future series as well too. But like I said, I think long term, they want Emilia Clarke's character sort of becoming the Abigail brand of the MCU, or at least using that name as an alias and running the sword or the saber space station for Nick Fury. It's one of those Kit Harington things, like they introduced them in a relatively minor seeming role, but they have potential to become much, much bigger characters, like Kit Harington's Black Knight. Still waiting for them to do more with the Black Knight character. Big reminder, there are 6 episodes total. If you spotted any other Easter eggs or references in this episode that I didn't mention in the video, just write them below in the comments. My episode 2 trailer video will post on Thursday, and my full episode 2 video will post next week after they release it. Marvel also just announced that they basically canceled their Comic-Con plans. No big Marvel panel or anything like that. So I might do a video about that, just explaining what's going on, but there's a bunch of other stuff that's happening this week and coming up, so make sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that stuff. Everyone click here for my episode 2 trailer video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that. And click here for all my other Secret Invasion videos. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.